Okay, good luck with the slow descent into madness.
If you can keep up and you don't mind dying, come along.
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
You know what? There's something just extremely uncomfortable about a man your size sniffing a flower.
We're gonna need a new plan.
I'll give you anything you ask for. As long as it's not something I don't want to get.
Get off my bridge.
It's the Al Travis Show. We'd love having our next guest on. They're new. Maybe you've heard of them. It's Jake and Stunt Monkey, the barbecue show. We've got the Stunt Monkey with us, and the only thing I think about that is I thought my parents were pretty lazy and mean, just call me Al. But I got nothing to complain about. Stunt, thanks for being here. Do you mind if I call you Stunt, or is it Mr. Monkey?
No, Stunt's just fine.
Stunt,
no,
okay.
No need for the formalities there. No.
Okay. So Stunt, I've said this before. For folks who don't know, the barbecue show, you've been doing this for a while, right?
Yeah, we're on 4 years already, yeah.
That is amazing. But for the most part, folks are following you on the podcast, right? How does someone get the show?
Absolutely. So we're on 4 different radio stations right now, hoping to keep on growing that. But then every weekend after the show airs, we put up on our podcast. And so the BBQ show, the barbecue show, on all platforms, I believe, unless I'm missing one, I think we should be on everything. So it's always downloadable.
It's technically the BBQ. That there's no hyphens around. How could that have been available for you?
I don't ask questions. I just take the rewards. Sure. I guess I don't know. I was excited when I found out. I was super excited for social media, for the Spotify and stuff like that. It all worked out. So
that's fantastic.
BBQ show, absolutely.
Somebody messed up. Even if this doesn't work for you, you'll sell it to somebody because like Pepsi, somebody bought Pepsi.com and they got like $1 gazillion because Pepsi.com wanted it. Anyway,
right.
Full story. When I first met you, and that's got to have been 5 years ago down the road. Everybody knew that Stunt would bring, when Fridays if they're having food, Stunt was going to bring some barbecue stuff. How long have you been a barbecue guy?
2013 or 2012 is when I really started getting into it. 2014, I bought a pellet smoker, and then I really was able to kind of enhance myself. I had a grill before that. I had a water bullet type smoker where you put the wood and the charcoal on the bottom, and you let the steam and from the water bowl kind of work itself up in smoke. I had those since 2012, and then 14 I bought a pellet smoker, and then I really just dived in. But I just love doing it, and I'd bring stuff to work. That's still happening, by the way. Not every Friday. We all got busier than we used to be, but we always have food going and we're ready to share with the coworkers. So
for folks who may not be barbecues, I think you're either you are or you aren't, right? I mean, there isn't like the casual guy. You're not buying a pellet cooker and think, I used it twice last year. You're either in or you're out. Go ahead. I was just going to say, what kicked you into that when you got the first one, whether it was the deal or somebody said, hey, that's the best hamburger I ever had, or what made you think, man, a grill and stuff, that's my jam?
Right. As soon as you adjust to the pellet smoker, I mean, there's obviously other smokers out there too, but I mean, once you decide you're getting a smoker instead of a grill, I think you're got to be all in, right? You're 100% right. And for me, I think it was when I started making ribs on the original pellet, not pellets, but the bullet like style smoker, and I realized the different ways you can manipulate them and just techniques you can do with different styles. Of course, everybody immediately goes to the 3-2-1 method, which now basically nobody wants to do ever again unless you're just starting out. It's just,
for folks, what is 3-2-1? What is 3-2-1?
Yeah, perfect. Sorry. Yeah. So it basically you smoke it for 3 hours, you cover it for 2, and then you let it uncover it again for another hour. Is the 3-2-1 method. And so you're smoking ribs for basically 6 hours, low and slow. That method is one. I've always gone done faster than 6, even when I try to keep it really slow. And then now in competition world and a bunch of other people just at home, we're not patient enough for that. And people are getting them done a lot quicker. I mean, competitions now are doing them in 3 hours, if not faster.
Yeah.
So just let's get them going.
Yeah. You got the whole 4th of July to stand in front of a grill. But when you say I'm a barbecuer, because I think there's levels to us as well. You first start, maybe you're charcoal. I got a friend who's just a charcoal guy. He can't get himself off the charcoal thing. He might be the only one buying 20-pound bags of charcoal at the gas station still. I don't know why they have it. But he lights that thing up, and that's how he does it. Always been that way, always going to. His dad did it that way. But I think he gets his flavor, other than the lighter fluid, which you can taste. So don't tell me you can't. You can taste the lighter.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I don't use lighter fluid.
He's zooming. Other than that, his idea of barbecuing is the mix that he puts into the hamburger, or if he's going to rub it on. He's more of the, I don't want to say technique, but the physical, how you manipulate the meat, than it is the slow roasting, right?
Right.
And I presume you as a professional, it's both. You know,
I
the
like to
slow
think
and the
it's both.
heat.
Yeah,
Good.
because the different woods you use, I mean, from charcoal in general to a wood pellet or an offset smoker, the different woods you use will bring different flavors to what you're doing. The smoke affects it differently. Fruit wood, like a cherry wood, I always put on stuff that's good. You want to have a sweeter taste to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
More of a hickory or an oak is usually, to my mind, more of a beef, a brisket, when you don't want that sweetness involved in it is necessary. Pork is great with sweet. Usually brisket is not, or beef is not. And so there's a difference. So you got to definitely use both areas, right? Like you said.
Okay.
I'm worried about the smoke flavor, but then and that's one of my favorite things to cook is the ribs, because you can manipulate them so many different ways, and it only cost you for a rack of ribs, and it took you 3 to 4 hours, and you get to try it again tomorrow if you want. A brisket is a lot bigger dent on your paycheck and on your time, because those are still taking 10 to 12 hours.
You got to know what you're doing. But so let me ask you this. You have pellet smoker now. I bought my first Traeger used. I want to find out if I liked it or not. So I go and I bought hickory because, I knew what hickory was. I have no idea what these tastes are going to be. But how do you get rid of the hickory in there if I want to put the cherry in there and give that a shot until it all burns out? Is there an escape hatch on those bad boys? I can dump it out? I don't even know.
Yeah, some of them have escape hatches on them. I don't think they call them an escape hatch, but yeah,
What?
a pellet dump, and you can just open it up and it just dumps out the rust you got in there, or you got to go in there by hand and pull them out, depending on how it's built.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, it's not escape hatch. Got it.
Yeah,
but here's my point. So you've been doing this a long time, and you are a scientist about it. So let's say you're going to put your ribs in, and you got. I want to try that. So you had 2 sets of ribs, one for Saturday, one for Sunday. Because Sunday I'm going to try, like you say, a sweet smoke on it. But then what do you actually do to the ribs? Are your ribs plain and literally it's the smoke, or are you going to say I'm going to put a little rub on it? Because now you got to compare apples to apples, right? If you would.
If you want to just, you have to be very careful how you do it, right? So if you would like your flavor palette for that, what you have for seasoning, then you just change out your woods. If you like the woods, you like that sweeter taste or whatever, you like that smoky flavor, then you just got to mess around with your seasonings and really get into it about how, brown sugar comes in a lot on ribs. Some people just do salt and pepper ribs. I mean, people who like the competition guys who do a flavored rib all the time, when they actually want to eat ribs, they do almost salt and pepper every time because they're tired of the sweetness.
Can you answer this for me? That I'm loving this. Have you ever, and can you just make, if you will, the smoke or whatever? Can you grill a rib enough to stand on its own with just a little salt and pepper? You can do that, and they're delicious.
Absolutely, yeah. I prefer to actually have my ribs dry. I mean, the sauced or dried is always argument as well when you do competition. I believe almost everybody does them sauced because that's just what is expected to have a barbecue flavor on there, have a saucy texture or outside to it. I prefer to make mine dry. I usually don't do salt and pepper, but with the seasoning and stuff, I do salt and pepper with other stuff as well. Yeah. With the seasoning and whatever else, I just wait to come out of the smoker when they're done. They're ready to serve. I don't need to sauce them up.
See,
if I did it right, you don't need to add sauce anyway.
See, that's where I'm at. I would rather have a dry rub on almost everything that I cook. I just don't like this all the mess. To be quite frank,
absolutely, yeah.
So I'm big that way. So I'm glad you go that way. Do you yourself then? Because I'm going to be completely honest. I'm a Grandpa's Barbecue guy is a sponsor here. They've got some fabulous rubs now. No. I suppose, go read the directions and get paprika and the thing in all the 5 natural ingredients, but I like shaking it out of the jar and being done. Do you mix your own dry rub then? Do you make your own?
I actually mix my own dry rub for pulled pork. Well, not for everything. For my pulled pork, I have my own rub. I'm not even sure where it all came from. It's just over years of experimenting and having fun. I've kind of found what I like for my pulled pork.
But do you write? Is it a written down recipe or is it? I remember.
Down.
Okay.
Yeah. It's probably the most organized I am entirely of everything is that particular thing right there. But then for like the ribs and everything else I'm doing, it's different packaging. I mean, it's either the Meat Church brand or, of course, now I can't think of any other brand. Cosmos has a big brand out there. Heath Riles, all those other brands, Grandpa's, like you said. I buy one of those prepackaged, and you kind of play around with that too. Yeah. Sometimes mixing them together or using one plus your own. I want to add smoked paprika. Let's do that, and you get to play around with it. We actually had a guy on the show, going back to you mentioned kind of get to be a scientist about it. We had a food scientist from an area business, big corporation come in, and we talked about what he does for a living and basically how he does it and how he does his cooking at home. It was so funny because at work, it's all weighed out. Every ingredient's weighed out. It's this many grams, this many ounces, whatever it is. And then when he goes home, just throw it on there.
Well, yeah, you get close enough. But mine is, and I throw Famous Dave's a commercial. I first started because I enjoy Famous Dave's. If I'm going to go someplace, I know exactly what it's going to taste like when I get there. I'm not risking it. So it's kind of a go-to thing. So you buy their shakers, and I can make it taste kind of like that. I'm not saying I'm Famous Dave's. But that made it easy, but it was easier than me trying to concoct my own because I don't put this. I love the barbecue, but generally it's because folks are coming over. And I don't want to run the risk of, oh, you put that in there. I hate that. I hate that risk. It's too much pressure on me. So that's why I do that. But I do want to talk on the other side, if we can, real quick, about the idea of taking a little of this and a little of that and making it your own. I'll be back right after this. I've got him. He's Stunt. He's the guy with the barbecue show right after this.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc. Midwest Money Management and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
Talk amongst friends. The Al Travis Show. Nothing but talk.
You talk about experimenting. I've got Stunt Monkey with me from the barbecue show. So you sprinkle my ribs with whatever sauce I purchased, the dry rub. And you go through so much of it because a lot of it falls off. I saw somebody somewhere, saw a thing where they use a little binder. And I use a little honey mustard on a set. And I'm like, wow, whole nother level. Didn't use half as much of the rub. Got another taste to it. I throw out, by the way, just because you're out of the honey mustard, don't use Dijon, because this is where you can't experiment with friends. If friends were coming over, I got Dijon mustard, and I use that. Totally different crap load of ribs. Sorry, I couldn't handle it. You can't experiment in front of people. I'm sorry.
You really can't. It's actually funny you used honey mustard, by the way. I've only used regular yellow mustard, and you won't even taste the mustard at all.
Yeah.
Honey mustard has a residue left over. I bet you taste that.
It does, and it also must have some more extra sugar or something in it because it caramelizes even a little bit more on it, and I really enjoyed it. Do you use any other binders? Is there anything else that work if you don't have mustard lying around?
Yeah, if it's not yellow mustard, I've used Worcestershire before, or however you want to say it. We call it Worcestershire sauce. But yeah, we...
the classy guys call it Worcestershire sauce, yes.
Yeah. But anyway, so we have a few different things. You can always use that, just an extra liquid to kind of help it sit and settle into the meat a little bit. And big key there also to let it sweat in. Let the seasoning sweat into the meat a little bit before you move it around and throw it on the smoker.
And what does that mean? How long?
Anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes, usually not 30 minutes, but I usually get it going right away. But just let it sit on the counter, and those ingredients will just kind of sweat in. The meat will start to look wet again, and that's when you're ready to go. Back to your experimenting.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, back to your experimenting comment quickly. We always are about experimenting, having fun with whenever you're cooking, but we also have rules. Memorial Day, Labor Day, you have friends coming over. You don't need to get fancy. You do the basics. You do what you know you can handle, and that way, because otherwise you got 15, 20 people at your place, and you're making a fancy rib, and all of a sudden it's not done on time, it's not done enough, nobody likes the flavor, and then you're stuck. So we always say the holidays are not the time to really do a show off, because if you got something fancy you don't have nailed down, or that has a certain palate to it, you're going to have people not eating at your place.
Tell me if this is true. Obviously, I've always put fat side up when you're doing this, so that moisture sinks back down into the meat. But I was told you don't do that with ribs. If you have pork loin, you do it upside down, but on a rib you don't. What is the way?
So it's interesting. And everybody has their own method, and everybody will swear by their own method too, right? So when I do ribs, it's bones down. You got the bones are down, and then when I wrap, because there's always a stage when you usually wrap, most people do anyway. I then let them sit on the top, or I flip them over upside down, so they're sitting in the juice or whatever stuff I put in there, seasoning, whatever that may be. And then they're sitting in that for the wrapped portion of the cook. So that's the way I like to do it. As for bigger cuts of meat, pork butt, I always do fat side down. I put the fat cap down because I feel like I always end up losing some of the fat cap, and I don't even want it anyway. So some of that just pulling off is fine. Brisket, meanwhile, I'll always do fat cap up because it's a 12-hour smoke sometimes. Yeah. And in my mind, at least, it's letting the opportunity for it to melt into the meat, melt down as we break that fat down and those tissues down.
And we only have a minute to go. I'm sorry, we'll get you back on because it just goes so fast. Do you do a lot of cutting the meat after you get it? Get a butt roast, or are you cutting the extra fat? Yeah. Do you do a lot of that yourself, or do you just take it as it comes?
It depends what it is. Once again, but especially for a brisket, there's always a lot of extra stuff to trim off there. So, unfortunately, when you really get down into it, the amount of stuff you take off is like, what did I just pay for the weight? When you end up pulling something, you get a little depressed a little bit. But it depends on what the cut is, how much you have to trim it. But usually a little bit of doctoring on most cuts usually has to happen.
And I hate rules of thumb, but is there a rule of thumb of how much to leave? Is it just a small layer? Is it a half inch? Do you have a thought?
I'd say quarter inch, like on a brisket, especially. I'm looking at like a quarter inch.
Okay.
Maybe. I mean, you don't want you don't want to skin it all the way back down to the meat. You want that fat cap on there for a brisket.
And when you talk all this grilling, we keep talking about pork, and hey, we love pork in southern Minnesota. I'm not ripping it. Can we, next time you come on, talk about the difference between that and, let's say, a rack of beef ribs and the difference?
Absolutely. Would love
Do you
to.
do a lot of that? Or are you a pork guy 90% of the time?
The price difference keeps me being a pork guy about 90% of the time. But a beef
Fair enough.
rib, when you have time to do it, is absolutely fantastic.
We'll do it next time. Stunt Monkey, I appreciate
great.
you being on the program. He's Stunt Monkey. Get him at the Barbecue Show, anywhere you pick up your podcast.
If it's your turn to